I think it makes a nonsense of a lot of the issues that we've been talking about if you don't look at the way we are using the word atheism and secularism. Now, I enjoyed the contributions of the people on the panel, but they generally weren't about LGBT issues, which I was expecting. Now that's fine, I enjoyed them, and they made a lot of interesting points. Bisu made the point about homosexuality. Now, the National Secular Society has been the most effective organisation in opposing the prejudice of homophobia in this country. They have led it, and it has attracted a lot of homosexuals to that organisation. But it will not touch, it has never touched feminism, which is as bad, if not worse, for more people. And I have spent decades trying to persuade them that feminism is a secularist issue. And there are lots of atheist and secularist aspects.
Can I just say they're actually having a conference in December on secularism and feminism.
I'm delighted.
So they are tackling it.
Yes. Yeah, please. Yes. If we're going to ask her to
yeah. So they are actually...
Yeah, if we're going to ask her to respect people who are speaking to the side. Yeah.
That hasn't been the history. I've been an active member of the secular humanist organisations in this country for over 40 years. I grew up with a widowed working mother in the industrial Midlands at a time when Caribbean men were being shipped over here to work in the mines and the potteries and the other industries. And because I had friends who were black men, and I was a latchkey child. Fortunately, in those days there wasn't grooming, and I was a very lucky person in the people that I did meet. But that what's going on now is new, is completely wrong. It's always gone on. I can remember seeing a friend. I was waiting for a bus to go home because I had a second job as an usherette in a cinema. And I was going home and I was talking to this guy, and this middle-aged woman came up and she shook her fist at me and she said, "Oh, you slut, you know, talking to this black man," and, you know. And that is part of the history of this country.
Okay. What's the point you're making?
I'm trying to look at some of the issues that have been brought up that haven't been dealt with. Now, I found Lola's contribution particularly interesting because that is the history of the British people that is not dealt with in education. Because basically education in this country is used as a form of social control. Children are not taught to think, they're not brought up with a critical faculty, they're taught to do as they're told, jump through the hoops in order to become employed, paid unemployed, not necessarily to work hard. And that is a very big part of a joint history, which I think is well worth discussing from both your perspective of the British and the British perspective of black people. Because at the moment, they're ignorant of this.
Okay.
Can I just say one more thing? There are two very distinct ways of interpreting atheism. It is totally important.
So suppose she doesn't finish my
Look, modern atheists reclaimed the word atheism about 10 years ago. We started to reclaim the word because humanists and secularists and everybody else would not use the word. They said, "Oh no, it's counterproductive." And there are now two distinct forms of atheism. One is atheism, as in the we can all be we can all be good without God atheism of humanism and the British Humanist Association. And there is the atheism that looks at the malign effects of religion on society. And there are people in the former group who are hostile to atheism that wants to say, why do we have LGBT prejudice? Where does it come from? We haven't touched that tonight.
Okay, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to touch on everything today. And I will say, the longer the contribution of a particular individual, the less opportunity we have to explore the wider range of issues and for others to contribute. So please, I thank you very, very much for that contribution. Thank you.
I think I'll be very brief. I think what Sue has touched on is very, very important about the two types of atheists. The ones that just, okay, there is no God and then we get on with life. And the ones that want to address the problems created by religion. Now, what do we support? There are two things. We talked about LGBT religious leaders. We are not supporting them in the religious doctrines. What we are supporting, we will support anyone that is marginalized, anyone in oppressive groups, including women. For example, I am not religious. I don't believe anything the Anglican Church is doing. However, I am keen, I'm following what they are doing with female bishops. Whether one day we will have, I don't know, it's almost like a contradiction. But I want.
You can't do that without looking at the issue.
Sue, can you please let Lola
Sue, hold on, wait. Sue, no, please, hold on. It's disrupting the meeting. You're not allowing it to flow. You're not allowing people to make their contribution. It's getting frustrating, and we won't have that. Please, can you be very brief now?
Yeah, I was just going to.
Oh, wait, are you going?
You are censoring the discussion. This is not a discussion.
Okay, wait. Are you going?
You don't want to hear what I say, and I'm the only person saying it. So
There's other people in the room that want to
people
speak.
speak as well. Other people speak the whole time. We're happy to listen to what you have to say, but just let other people have a chance to speak too.
well, it's not only me who's done this, I have to say. And
I thought you were going. The next question is I'll rephrase it slightly if I can. I think it's asking which are the more advanced, religious ethics or secular ethics. People might have all kinds of views and might think, well, whatever it is they might think. But my small kind of deviation from what I've just said is to acknowledge the fact that at during the last discussion, there was one person who was burning to ask to make a contribution, and I unfortunately got distracted and didn't allow it. So I'm going to first person, even before I ask the speakers to open and make very, very, very brief comments on the question. I'm going to ask Deepa to ask so that will I be forgiven if I allow you to speak now, please?
Yeah, it's a very quick question. You know, the lady and Lola also touched on the fact that there are two different kinds of atheists. You know, and I won't go back on the definition of the two. I think we all know what it is. But is there any way of, you know, getting together and perhaps working on challenging religion in a positive way, rather than attacking, you know, being one group that attacks religion and, you know, turns out and is labelled as violent and aggressive and whatever, and the other one that is just so laid back that they couldn't care less one way or the other. Is there any way that we can be a force for good in a positive way?
Lola?
As atheists?
I think I was having a discussion with Helen about that. I don't know where to start with this one, because there is something that Bisi said. Oh, I need to. Sorry. Bisi was saying that we have a view as if people that are religious are not progressive, as if they are stuck with the dogma. And I do agree with Bisi that is not, I don't particularly have that view, because I'm not sure my dad is a good example, but we have a lot of Christians that are highly educated, and the only thing that they've moved on, for example, with Christianity, and there are some Muslims like that as well. They've moved on from literary interpretation of the scriptures. Some of them have, you know, they've accepted evolution, they've accepted a lot of things, and they don't believe any, and as I was explaining to Helen, I went through a phase when I regarded myself as a Christian atheist. And at that point, I just saw Jesus as a human being and as a teacher, somebody like Mandela. I did not believe in the deity of Christ or in God in heaven or anything. I just saw him as a teacher that people defied and turned into God. So I went through that phase. And I think if we close our mind and we think that every Christian is dogmatic, we will not be able to engage with them and then take them through the journey that a lot of people may eventually be able to discard of religion. Not everyone is dogmatic and not everyone is stuck with literary. We even have atheist clergy now. We have the Pope, this current Pope, I'm not even sure he believes in God. There are a lot of things he's coming up with, and I think that is good for, if people can accept a lot of things within religious structures, I believe that we are on a way to, I almost believe that within the next 50 years, a group of Christians will start saying, we cannot rely on the Bible anymore. And the mysteries will slowly go out of religion. What was the question?
Okay, you answer the question.
I actually found it a little bit uncomfortable in that last discussion about there's only two types of atheists. This idea of, there's one that's really lazy and there's one that's really there's a middle, surely it's got to be a middle ground. I really don't know, surely. There are some people, I was just saying as an example, some people, as I was just a Christian, just because my mum was, there are some people who have atheist mums and dads, they just are, they're not, I don't think they've sat down and said, I don't believe in God, they just don't believe in anything, it's the end, there really are some people like that. They're not lazy, they don't care, they're living their lives. And you've got, well, that's your opinion, they're unbelievers, but you, like I said, definitely literal, just looking at grand language, atheist without religion, that's all I'm saying here. And then you've got some people who are humanists, and so that is a bit more active in the sense of you've got this active belief in humans and stuff like that, so that's when you, sorry?
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, that's what you were saying,
okay.
That's what you used as your first definition. I'm just saying I just don't think there's two types of people in anything really, that's all I'm saying, so.
Can I just say something?
No, because
Okay, go on.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on to I know there are two people have indicated they want to speak. I'm hoping that it relates to the second question. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to keep revising my time. It's not working. Right. So we're looking specifically at, I think, the merits or demerits, or which is the most advanced, if either, religious ethics or secular ethics. But because there doesn't seem to be many people here representing the religious.
Is there anyone representing the religious side of things?
I was going to say that there's a lot we can learn from different other movements that have gone before us, most especially the LGBT movement. Yeah. Not every gay person carries a gay agenda and walk around the street and say, hey, I'm gay. People just live their life. And there are those of us who live our life saying gay rights, gay rights, gay rights. Some people don't care. They just want to go to work, get it as long as they're comfortable. And now to go to that question, because I cringed when I saw that question and said, we're going to put ourselves in a very, very difficult position when we start comparing. Because again, what exactly is atheist ethics? What ethics have you got as an atheist? I don't know. I've never read a book that have listed what those ethics are. And now the problem we're going to have is when we start comparing the supposedly visible ethics of religion in a way, we will shoot ourselves in the foot. And I'll tell you why. I went to a Christian school. You understand what I'm telling you? And in my Christian school, I was taught values, certain values of, love your neighbor as yourself. I was taught the value of volunteering. When there's crisis, I was taught the values of going into people's house to support them when there are crises, when there are natural disasters and all those kind of things. I volunteered I was a member of the Boy Scout, then I joined the Boys Brigade, then I eventually joined the Red Cross, which are all based on a Christian principle. You get what I'm trying to say? And now, the moment this is challenged as a black man, I'm speaking as a black man because we also have to understand the whole concept of Euroscepticism or Europeanism of this whole thing. So as a black man, the moment you compare the values I can see to the value I perceive, then I'd rather go to the value I can see and not want to talk about the values that I perceive because I don't know what the values of an atheist is.
Okay, I think that's a fair point. I think it's understood. Do you want to
I'd like to just address a couple of those points. I mean, yes, atheists have values. They have basic humanist values that they care about, you know, the environment that we live in. They care about the one planet we have because there isn't an afterworld, so we really care about it, and we care about other human beings. And the values that you were saying that actually come from Christian values, they're not Christian values, they're just basic human values that Christians have adopted. So, you know, if you go to someone who has no religion or you go to a Buddhist or, they will have those same basic values, that you love your neighbour, that you love children, you don't want to do harm to people, if there was a terrible disaster, you look after people. They're just basic human values that atheists and humanists and secularists have, and so do Christians and people of other religions. So you can't say they are Christian values, they are just basic human values that we all care about.
Okay, but I wouldn't have worked because I just wanted to clarify that you know that, and that's why I talk about the Euro approach to things, the European approach to things. Growing up in Nigeria, I was brought up to believe that those are Christian values. Now I have to learn to unlearn them. You get what I'm trying to say? I'm not saying they're not human. I'm not saying they're not human values. I'm not saying they're not human values. I'm telling you, I was brought up to believe that those are Christian values. So the moment you come to me, so the way you can tell me it doesn't matter. Not killing your neighbor doesn't have to make you a Christian. It has to make you a human. You get what I'm trying to say? And that is one argument we don't get across most of the time. Because the Christians are so much structured in a way that they promote this propaganda that makes you believe that doing good is being a Christian.
No, because you're doing good for fear of...
Okay, I don't think anyone disagrees with you, so perhaps you can focus on your lunch for the day.
And read some books by atheists, read some Christopher Hitchens, read some Richard Dawkins,
Okay, I think you wanted to come and see her?
Yeah, I was going to say, completely agree with you, because basically I'm going to touch on how I get what you're saying, but you were like, what book? Like, we don't need a book, it's human decency. Like, I don't need a book to tell me, love thy neighbour as thyself. I quite love myself, so I'm going to love my neighbour. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? And I think, and it's really important in Sexuality. I'm an advocate. Like, what Bissy was saying about Eurocentrism, it's really, really important to like take into what he's saying. He's saying that in Nigeria, he was taught that those are Christian values. He was taught that atheists, if he even talked about atheists, don't have those values. He was taught that to have those values, you must be a Christian. That's really important to understand, because, like, in the last discussion, stuff like that, you can't take away culture and race when you think about these things. Although, the last question didn't say black, LGBTQ, but you have to always remember that people's cultures, where they're from, like, sometimes you have to undo stuff so that you can, do you know what I'm saying? So, completely with you on that, but it's really important to hear what he's saying, that he was taught in a certain way that you won't understand because you weren't raised in Nigeria.
But of course it is, because that is indoctrination of religion. That's what religion wants to do, is indoctrinate you.
Yeah, but he didn't say that's wrong. He
and
said
just as Lola was saying, her culture before Christianity and Islam came out, they had a great culture that cared for women, actually respect.
And that's what Bissy just saying.
I think she understands what he's saying.
Yeah.
So religion is the problem.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember. Okay, I know you guys will think love to hear what you say. I think it's important for us to remember that Christianity is not the only religion. It doesn't. The question doesn't say.
Just said Islam as well.
It doesn't say. So if we're gonna, and I'm not saying we should challenge this religion or that religion, but we need to be clear that if we're having a discussion, that any religion is open to challenge if we think it needs to be challenged.
About atheism, and I think this is closely related, morality. The thing people fear about atheists, and this is one of my strongest anxieties when it came to atheism and the atheist community, being I grew up in a Muslim household. And when I was looking, I had my own, even when I was a Muslim, and I was a very strict Muslim, I wore my headscarf, and I was one of those people, I grew up in a strict Sunni household. I mean, we weren't extremists, I think, but we were very to the book. And, even in that sort of realm where we couldn't even listen to music, we couldn't draw faces and we can't listen to music. And someone who's, comes from a very creative disposition like me, that was that did cause a bit of conflict. But when it came to exploring morality, the problem I had was, okay, my book says this, the Quran says, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. So it basically gives you commands. It says this is bad, this is sinful, this is, eating pig is it's a dirty animal, don't eat it, etc. So it just tells you, it barks orders on what to do. And people will get used to that sort of morality. They say, okay, something's told me not to do something, therefore I shouldn't do it. And I think the way we raise children in our generation is, if the child doesn't do well, you hit them or shout at them. That's what a lot of parents do when they raise their children. They tell them not to do something, they don't tell them why not to do it. And when you become an atheist, when you look at atheism, or if you become an atheist, you become a bit lost at first, I think. That's how we got to a lot of people who think about morality. Because you haven't got any sort of higher deity telling you how to live your life.
You come from a religion, right?
Yeah. You don't have a higher deity, you don't believe there's a higher deity, or you think other people don't believe there's a higher deity telling you what to do. You think to yourself, how can someone be an atheist and not go off the wrong path? I mean, what's there to stop them from, disliking homosexuality? What's there to stop them from murdering their neighbour? They think things like that. Obviously they've been brought up in a religious environment. You think to yourself, what's stopping them from being bad people? And that's one thing that would stop a lot of people from becoming atheists as well. But values. Some people try to do organised atheism, where you have atheism, then you add some, like humanitarian values to it. And the only problem I have with that is that it's similar, because you're telling people how to think and how to feel. I think that in a free-thinking society, people should, be told, they should be encouraged, not told what to think. They should be encouraged, and they should, come to the conclusion on. But in our society, we're used to having our orders barked at us, basically.
Okay, I'm wondering, does anyone see any value in the constrictions of religion at all, in terms of developing the point that you've made? If we agree that there are certain sort of principles which are to our advantage, is there anything that religion can offer in terms of maybe trying to encourage or ensure that those values are upheld, or not?
I'm sure, no.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Who says religious morals come from religion? Like, where values don't come from religion. Look at the 2,000 years we've just lived through, where 85% of the world currently live under religion, and you're talking about the values of religion. Look at the state of the world because of religion.
Okay.
Alongside racism, alongside other things, but religion is the prevailing factor in this. The values we get come from our science, what we learn about the world, our environment. These are important things.
But we should also not forget that scientists have done more evil than scientists have done as much evil as.
The others who've indicated they want to speak, and in fairness, I need to ensure that people are not forgotten. I think you wanted to speak, and you want to speak first. Sorry. Yourself, then yourself, then yourself. Okay, and then panelists. Yeah.
The question, was it religious ethics, are they better than atheists? Because I think that religion is quite dangerous, and I have an issue with the religious morals, because I don't think it's real morals. It's like what you were saying before. I think you were going to go on to it. It's based on fear, and I think that people are just doing these good deeds because they want to secure their place in heaven. Exactly. That's why you see a lot of, the suicide bombers. They think it's they're doing a good thing, but it's nothing to do with that. It's kind of saving themselves, and it's quite. It's just even when you raise your children and things like that, you're kind of telling them what to believe, and if they don't believe that, then they're doing something wrong. And I think it leads people to be very closed-minded, so that's what I think.
Okay, that's a fair position.
Yeah, I think following on what was said, that if you follow the morality of Christians and Muslims, and love thy neighbour was mentioned. I mean, we have to realise this is a tribal thing. When you look at the history of these religions, it wasn't love thy neighbour at all. It was invade that neighbour. So that is a morality that I want nothing to do with. When you look at Islam, how quick it spread from India to Spain in about a century. This wasn't the love of God that spread that religion, this was fear. And if you didn't convert, you were killed in a horrible way in most cases. So as far as I'm concerned, they have no morality in terms of that they scare people in. They are death cults, and if you don't believe in this cult, this belief, then you are going to burn after you die. They claim to know what happens to us after we die without a shred of evidence. So I would just, you stole my thunder a little bit, what I'm saying. But we get our morality not from science, I don't believe, but from the society we live in. In the Quran or the Bible, it doesn't say we shouldn't have sex with children. Why doesn't it say that? Because they were having sex with children. Our society has moved on. We now have laws which say you cannot have sex with children. And that's the morality that I embrace. And I was raised a Catholic. I mean, I was an absolute scallywag as a Catholic because I could steal, I could do anything, and then I could go to confession at the end of the week, and I always forgiven. When I became an atheist, then I became a more moral person and realised that what I was doing was wrong. And so I get nothing from society. We get our morality from the society we live in. And I'm quite happy with that.
What Lizzie was saying about science, and fundamentally I feel that the difference between science and religion is that if something changes within the world, you can go to the scientist and say, he can actually say that he was wrong. She was wrong, and then formulate a different theory or hypothesis. How many priests or imams have you actually known that have ever said they were wrong? You see, like science can say that homosexuality is a genetic thing. It can be different factors, and you could go to a psychologist and they can say, there's nothing wrong with someone being a homosexual. When in fact science actually was against homosexuality. It was even classified as a mental health issue. But now they actually rile against religious people who have these, these schemes where they tell young people how not to be a homosexual or pray against homosexuality.
Right, a way to go.
Yeah. Okay. But if you go to, you're right, science has a lot to answer for in many different aspects, but at least science can say it is wrong and rectify the situation. How many imams and how many Catholic priests or Christian priests have you known and have said, I'm sorry for what we did to you, we were wrong? How many have you come up that said that?
A lot. A lot has done.
Under what basis though?
Under the basis of religion, and I will mention them. One of them is Desmond Tutu. Desmond Tutu has come out clean and clear, and he has said, as a man of God, I am sorry for what religion has done to LGBT people around the world. Not only Desmond Tutu, we have pastors.
Has he apologised for Africa, what it's done to Africa?
Yes, he has. He has.
But he's still part of the system.
Why can't he be part of the system? Why can't he be part of the system? Why can't he try to stay within the system and say that this is not the God that we should be serving? Why can't he do that?
Because he promotes bigotry.
That is a problem I have, because you think for him to be changed, he has to come out of it. And it doesn't have to happen. And that is what I argue, it doesn't have to happen. I can be part of it, I want to change the system. And when we equate not being religious to believing in science, that is another problem I have. We look at, how many of you have read The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks? That is what science has done to many black people in America. And if we sit down here and promote science over religion, excuse me, if we sit down and promote science over religion, then we are doing an injustice to a group of people.
I came to atheism at a very early age with virtually no knowledge of science. Science, I don't, science I can take from that. It's not my rule for living. And I think that a lot of atheists do get into that thing about what it's about science. And science has a long history of racism. There's the so-called Hottentot Venus, eugenics, during Nazi regime, sterilisation.
Science is not a person.
It's not actually science,
Is it not how religion is used? Wait a minute.
But recognise that, exactly, recognise that the science is as good or bad as the people, the so-called creators of science. And they have their subjectivities which they bring to it. It's not this objective truth, it's not always this objective truth which is pushed in the science community and within the atheist community. And that's what people know. You can take such, you still have to bring your critical mind to it as well.
Yeah, it's about using your own.
There's one thing, when I was talking about morality earlier, one thing I forgot to mention is I believe that religion itself is dying. And I don't believe it's dying because we're talking about science. I think it's actually dying because people are looking, when we cross nations, like Islam, Christianity, sometimes I realise that people, obviously, they have their own interpretation of the Quran, Christianity, or whatever religion they have. And obviously, I'm talking about Abrahamic religions right now. And I noticed that it's not, skepticism or secularism or science that makes people into moral beings. I think it's altruism and empathy that makes people into good beings. And some people can have altruism and empathy when they're religious, and they see the injustices that is going on within their own community, within their own religious community, and they feel, okay, I feel, I don't like how my community treats women, I don't like how my community treats gay people. And they feel that in their hearts. But at the same time, religion is a very deeply rooted thing. People are just not, one day, I'm Christian, one day, I'm atheist, next day, it's not like that. At the same time, people are going to be walking the bridge, they're going to be thinking to themselves, okay, I feel strongly against this, but this is my whole life, this is what I've ever known. I'm not going to instantly just jump out the next day or anything like that.
Okay, you can answer.
I think it's dying because people are now trying to get away from their religion without leaving their religion. They're trying to get away from their religion. You can tell this in the generation gap between young, people in the 1950s or earlier. They're probably more attached to their religion than people who were born, in the noughties or the late 90s. So if you look at the generation gap and how people treat religion now, back how they do, you can see people trying to get away from religion. And people, when atheists see, they think, oh yeah, they're a bit less religious, but it's still a problem because religion is still there. But I think it's a huge progress because it's showing that people's hearts are going in the right direction. Even if they identify as Christian or Muslim, their hearts are going towards more of that, what we empathise with now, what we support right now, which is a more empathetic society, race and reason. People now today, they're interested in science, they're interested in human rights, social justice, and they're still religious.
Okay.
The lady was talking about science and DC as well, talking about science can be just as evil as religion. But it's not, science is not really a person, it has to have somebody to manipulate it, just like people do religion as well. So there isn't really that much difference between the two. But ancient religion actually, pre-Christian, before the pre-Abrahamic religions took control of the world, most of the world, there were religions, like Lola said, that just relied on common sense and logic and the intellect to work out a system that's fair. And Buddhism, for example, the word Buddha itself means intellect. Buddhi means thought and intellect. So there were religions, there were philosophies that relied on your own intellect and sense of logic. Everybody has, it's been confused because of religion, but we all have an innate sense of logic and common sense and fairness and justice that which we should be going back to rather than relying on it.
Which I think that we're general agreement of.
Lady front saying religion is dying. I think the main correlation you will find is where you get a more educated population, particularly education of women. That's when religion starts to drop. And coming back to your young girls who stop education at 13, then in the Amish community, that's when you're going to get them staying with religion. If you educate them, that's when people move away from religion, when they've got an education. And also coming back to the point about HIV and going to doctors or going to religious people. In Africa, when you went with HIV, the religious services stop taking your medication and pray instead. That was the answer of the religious people, which was just disastrous for AIDS in Africa. To say not take your medication, pray instead. It's appalling what happened on that scenario.
When Christians or believers or from any religion, when they do things that are ethical, it is not from religion, it is from reasoning. We derive ethics and way of living and sense of justice, as I said, from reasoning, not from religion. Religions don't have set of ethics per se. What they have doctrines, and it cannot be, because it is dictated from something that is outside of us, that does not live among us, that is external, of our planet. So it cannot be rational. But ethics can only be derived from, and that is why you will find that we have universal ethics, because it is not from. You will find thou shalt not steal. It's not only in Christianity. It's in every religion. Everything that is good in religion, you will find it in all religions and in all cultures and amongst people that are not even religious. So religion itself does not provide ethics in the way that we think. It's because, like you said, we have been taught to believe that religion provides ethics and moral freedom. It doesn't. Religion provides a way of doing things, a way of looking at things. But when it comes to morality and what is actually moral, you will see that it is universal. Okay.
We have to know it's very brief, because Lola has just said it quite perfectly. I will just chip in. Like, back to, Lola's point, and I'm sorry I forgot your name, but Helen's point too, I don't need a book. Like, I really think, religion aside, secularism aside, like, ethics, like, what's good? I know right from wrong. I've been taught it, but I don't believe that my mum's taught me that stuff because she's a Christian. Maybe she thinks that, but because she knows how she would feel if someone stole something from her. And I know how I'd feel if someone murders someone in my family. Like, it's inherent. And then that's how you, like, when people study people who don't have a conscience, when people can murder and not feel anything for what they've done, they can do bad things, people not feel like they've already concluded there's something wrong with those people. Like, it's not about religion or, do you know what I mean? It's just inherent. I don't think, and you can be taught it, but it doesn't have to be from religion at all. So I just think religious people, non-religious people, I just think that's one thing we should all have in common, regardless of our ideologies and our belief systems, non-belief. Just, we are people, first and foremost, we are people.
Working in HIV for over 15 years, and I started my HIV work in Africa, and the pharmaceutical companies controlled by the scientists will never allowed Africans to have access to antiretrovirals because they make no money from it.
But that's capitalism.
Let me finish. Let me.
That's capitalism. That's economics.
It's not science, it's
Christian science.
I get what he's trying to say.
If you don't let me finish, then how do I say what I want to say?
They talk to murmur occasionally.
Yeah, that's why.
And then continue. They've stopped now.
And who brought the drugs down to the people in the villages? The Christians. They brought them, the missionaries. I will tell you, the biggest organization in Africa that provide antiretroviral is from the Catholic Church. I am telling Catford. Have you ever heard of Catford? Have you ever heard of Catford before? Have you ever heard of Catford before? Yes. Go and do your research and look for Catford. Excuse me, I am speaking from experience.
Okay.
I am speaking from experience. They brought the drug. They have to go buy the drugs and bring it to the people. They use this drug to get people to go to church on Sunday. Because when people get, excuse me, but when people get this drug, when they get this drug, they know that these people are saving my life, and they go.
Hold on a minute, please.
You can call it black.
Listen, please. Allow the gentleman to speak in exactly the same way that he allowed you to speak. Thank you. Are you going to be
for you, it's a blackmail. To the woman in the village in Nigeria, it's a source of life. She doesn't care. And because of that, she's going to pack her Bible on Sunday and go to church. It's as simple as that. And she knows that she wouldn't have access to those drugs because some people in Europe and America who are white people, who are scientists, who don't like her, that is what you think. And that is what I'm saying. We have to understand the concept of reality of Africa and the reality of Europe when we discuss about this thing.
Can I ask you, I have to ask the question.
Hold on. Everybody cannot demand to speak by virtue of who they are. You know, please, you know, it can't work, right? I'm going to start off with the panel. I'm going to give each of them 2.5 minutes tops to make some initial contribution on this. Then I'm going to allow the majority of the rest of the time to go to the floor. Is that okay? Is that fair?
Yeah. I think we have to be careful that we don't ask this question on a general tone. For me, I couldn't reconcile my sexuality with religion, and I backed out. But I know for so many people that I've done, and they are doing it, and they are comfortable with it, and when they come to me and they need support to keep doing it because it makes them feel good, I'll give them that support.
Fair point. I'm brief, and I appreciate that for you. That deserves a round of applause. Laura?
I'm going to address that by saying one of my favorite quotes, that the Bible is a tortured book. It will say anything that you want it to say. So if you wanted to support sexuality, there's a way you can read the Bible and manipulate it, even though it doesn't support non-mainstream sexuality, which is it straight or whatever it's called. But you can find something in the Bible and in most of the scriptures to support anything that you want to say. I have to. I will not feel good if I don't respond. I have 2.5 minutes, so to respond to what.
Just for 3. Never mind.
Not 2.5 minutes about what Bisi said about the Catholic Church and HIV. You have to know this as a fact, that religion is one of the reasons we have HIV epidemic in Nigeria. A lot of, and if you look at countries where they have more Catholics, like in Uganda and where you have predominant, where the Christians are predominantly Catholic, you will have higher rates of HIV because of what they preach, don't use condom. And when they provide the medication, they are not providing the medication just because they want people to be cured. There's a hidden agenda there. Look, I used to be an evangelist, so I know what I'm talking from firsthand. We used to use medication and charity to entice people into the kingdom. It was not for their sake, but for the sake of the kingdom. You have to,
because I don't want to interrupt.
You do good. Good has to be done for goodness sake. The only basis for doing good is for goodness sake. I will not give HIV medication or help anybody to make them atheists. But Christians, they use charity, they use aid for the kingdom.
Okay.
I've been really excited about this final question, everyone. Feminists in the house. So, first of all, I would just like to get a few terms out there. So sexuality, I would like to not just talk about as in, being heterosexual, being, homosexual, like sexuality, sexual agency, sex. Okay. So this idea, and actually I had sort of written a kind of speech thing, and it was concentrating on this in particular. This idea of, I think so. I'll remind you, I'm the editor of a new feminist magazine called NoFlyRule.com, and by default, great, I'm an atheist, so it wasn't really that hard for me to try and even bother reconcile religion with feminism because I'm not religious. But 2 of my assistant editors are Christians. So it's really important. They're my really close friends and they are Christians. And they are feminists. And, you know, a lot of, you know, before I kind of got on board, I was like, I don't know how you can be a religious person and be a feminist, because as a feminist, I believe in freedom for all. So I'm not just thinking about women. I want freedom for all people, because patriarchy does oppress men too, especially men who don't fit a hegemonic model. And you know, everyone knows what I mean by that, right? This idea of being the Superman and everything like that. That's why gay men, gay women are oppressed. And I think that in saying that, sexuality, in the sense of, you know, it's back to religion being a, you know, actual like religion itself being a form of control, because religion, the framework, is man-made. People have and it is man-made. Like, you know, we can't dispute that. People have used it as they wish. The scripture is there, and they've taken what they want. Like the Bible, there's lots of passages that aren't, there are things not in the Bible, they're in a tunnel somewhere underground, because people have chosen what they want to put in there for whatever reason. And a lot of, I think, in particular when it comes to female sexuality particularly, I think that religion has a lot to answer for in oppressing women in that sense. The idea of virginity, I believe, is a patriarchal idea. This idea that the woman is, you know, her virginity is this kind of thing, and, you know, men can have how many wives and, sorry?
Sacred.
Yes, this sacred thing, like it's to make sure that women are objectified. Yeah, okay. Women are objectified, and like that, so I do think that's very difficult. And I have asked my friends, and they're not quite sure what to say about the idea of being a feminist, but believing in virginity, so whenever they have an answer, I'll let you know. So yeah, you know what I mean? I'm saying, like, it's a fact, there are Christian feminists, and there are, you know, Muslim feminists, and I just wonder how they've managed to overcome that. But the one thing, and maybe it touched on what Chrissy has said, like, they've decided to remove themselves from reading the books quite literally and sort of adapting. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, because there's a problem with picking and choosing. If you're going to pick and choose, why not pick and choose good and like discard the bad? But hey, people don't do that. So yeah, I think in the sense of, you know, can religion be reconciled with sexuality in a feminist position? I think that's very much a personal thing, because I've seen people do it, and I'm still wondering how they do it. But I do definitely think overall, if you're a feminist, I think you can't really be a feminist if you're, on the one hand, you're like freedom for all women and stuff like that, but you want to oppress their sexuality, and you want to only be for them if they fit a certain model. Like, you have to be, if you're a feminist, you must be for, you know, all people, as long as they haven't got patriarchal mentality and patriarchal values. So that's where I'd start.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, I've seen one hand indicated.
About religion and feminism. When I was Muslim, I was always interested in feminism to some degree. And I remember, either was being strongly against it or for it. I was kind of like switching between two states. I didn't know what to believe, and that was mainly caused by my own religion. One thing I learned is that there's many different types of feminism. There's feminism where people are for the freedom of women and their rights and their liberty, and to express themselves. They don't have to to be treated equally. There's another one where someone has their idea of rights, their own subjective idea of what women's rights should be, and that's kind of, it can be patriarchal, but that's how a lot of religious feminists were. So that's what I was to some degree. Basically, in Islam, for example, a woman wears a scarf. And I think I became very defensive of it because I was trained to wear a scarf when I was about 4 years old. And when people see it in the Western world, people see like, oh, women, they're oppressed, they can't show their hair, etc. And it's telling you to hide away from the world. But in the Muslim women's version, it was, women are forced to show something they don't want to show, and they're objectified because women today is valued by sexuality. And I guess that is true to some degree, because women are often objectified, and even without scarves, in our society, women are seen as objects, Even if you see advertising, there's only one with expressing sexuality, but there's a fine line between women being, So I can understand how feminism does have its own versions of religion, but I think that, religion is not necessarily, feminism doesn't require religion. I think you can be a good feminist or women's rights thing. I think feminism is better without religion.
Yes. Understood. Thank you.
Well, this is a Black History Month today. It's about a panel of Black speakers, and it's about thinking really about what Black atheism or free-thinking non-believers should be about, and creating, or Black minority groups, and creating its own model of atheism, which is supportive, culturally relevant, and based within the community and progressive. So to use Biss's example earlier on of who was taking drugs to Christian organisations, it should be atheist organisations doing that work. Atheists have got to put their hands in their pockets and do that work. Who's running the food banks in this country? It's Christian organisations. Why aren't atheists there, or humanists? Why aren't we doing that work?
There are groups doing it actually. They don't shout about it quite as much as the Christian groups do.
But then they should be shouting about it then, because then people who are thinking, who are deep in community, and so if we're talking about black and minority people, who have all their wealth and support, their community around them, and they don't believe in God, or they want to leave that community, where am I going to go to? Where am I going to go to get that support? Who's going to provide that welfare and support for me?
Good point well made.
Lots of people talk about Richard Dawkins are going to help me.
Okay, good point well made.
I also mentioned before, we need to kind of be a force for change in a positive way, and we need to look at that rather than just sit here discussing who's at fault and who's not and who's right, who's wrong. Okay, we know what we are. We need to get on with it and show our faces. Really, it's not we're no longer coming out. We've all come out. So let's do something.
Okay.
Just in answer to that lady's question, I mean, atheists have been suppressed for centuries and centuries in this country and around the world. Give us a chance to actually get out there and get organised and help. I personally have worked for 2 or 3 different charities for 14 years, donating my time. I haven't made a song and dance about it. I haven't made a point about being an atheist. It's just something that I felt I should do. And in my own way, I continue to do that. But when you've suppressed a group of people for so long, and suddenly, it's not that long ago that we did away with blasphemy laws in this country. So I think we need a chance to actually get there and get organised. It's not going to happen after centuries and centuries of suppression. It's not going to happen that quickly.
Make you run it, Dave. Do you want to speak or not speak?
I'll speak. This is a question. Right, there's apparently in this country there's middle class women, European women who have decided to ditch sort of the Western model of idealism and beliefs, and decided to go into religion, like a lot of Western women are going into Islam. How do you feel this claimed increase coincides with the advancement of feminism?
You're not asking me that, are you? I don't think so. I mean, you're making a statement as opposed to
I'm asking.
Okay, is there anybody who wants to...
I'd like to ask
But is there anybody who wants to respond to that particular question?
Please respond.
You just want to respond, innit? Go.
I think I understand, because if you think about second and third wave feminism, I think second wave feminism was slightly more conservative than third wave feminism, obviously, but it was talking about women being objectified and women seen as sex objects and things like that. And third wave feminism and onwards was talking about sexual liberation, things like that. And if you go back to second wave feminism, a lot of people who are feminists also identify more with second wave feminism. Some are, onwards, but still you've got. And the second wave, they were very against being viewed as sexual beings and objects, some of them. So when you see a lot of Christian women, in Christianity you see a lot of women who are a bit more liberal about how they express their sexualities. In Islam, women are veiled, and you have to admit in the Islamic community, there are not a lot of appearance, apart from being in a scarf, not a lot of effort is being put into seeing people's appearances as women. So a lot of women would probably find Islam liberating in their own way, even though there's a lot of patriarchal themes in Islam. People who might have been sexually objectified might find Islam liberating for them, even though there could be a better alternative for them.
I think deep down, religion, it kind of works like a business, and they can get a lot of money from people's emotions and things like that. And it's hard if you don't believe in anything to kind of use something to get money off of people. I mean, I do charity work, but I do it just not because I'm a Christian or, because God will be happy with me or something. I just do it because I can. I have the free time. Some people don't have the free time. It's just something, But I don't think as an atheist you should be obligated to do things just because there are religious groups doing good things. You can just do it if you have time.
I think that's an excellent point.
a lot of what these religions rely on is the poor. They promote the poor. One of the 5 pillars of Islam is they give to the poor. The thing is, if they don't have poor, then they don't have a religion. And I think what atheists want to do is not see the poor. They want it. They would like not only religion to be eradicated, but also the poor. But religions, they as I say, they prey on these people. So they might go out with their soup bowls, but their main objective is to convert them to their faith. That's the driving force behind it, and that's what it's been very successful in Africa, and they still do it in London. And I think that the goal should be to help the poor. The governments help the poor, not religions.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just a little bit, what can I say, uncomfortable with the amount of negative comment about science, you know, because science has really given us everything we've got. If you can point to one thing in this room, for example, that was prayed for and then it popped into existence, you know, then I'll be very happy to say religion has something to contribute. But from my perspective, we owe everything to one form or the other of science. So turning around and giving science a swift kick now and again is really unjustified. And I must say, one of the saddest days of my life was when I went to actually see a science experiment in Geneva, CERN, where they are doing experiments on the Large Hadron Collider. So the whole of CERN is kind of dedicated to science and scientists and all doing these wonderful experiments. And the only black person who came up to talk to us was a religious person. See? And he, you know, I tried to tell him that he should take his life in a different direction, because here he was in the middle of this amazing scientific environment, and there he was still peddling Bronze Age myths and superstitions. You know, so there's a lot of other things that science does impinge upon, which I won't go into because it's dragging up a lot of arguments that we've had already. But I'd just like you to all
no, speak, everybody else has, speak.
Yeah? Okay. Well, why not? Okay. Right. Now, for instance, we don't know everything. We don't. So science works on these things that we don't know. We don't, for instance, the basis of morality, what is it? We don't actually say, we can't actually pinpoint it and say, we know what it is. We know it's not religion, because religion actually makes us immoral, in my opinion, with all the things that it allows you to do. And then later on, you know, when the society advances, for instance, slavery was a good thing that religion was very happy about. But when the society moved on and decided slavery was no good, now religion wants to take credit for bringing slavery to an end. That is, I'm sorry, is completely and utterly unacceptable. You know? Religion makes things worse. Religion, in the words of the late great Christopher Hitchens, poisons everything. So we will get to the bottom of some of these issues one day using the scientific approach. You're not going to find morality in a test tube, it's true. But you know, how you're going to answer the question of where does morality come from is going to be a scientific question, and it's going to be answered in that way.
So you then believe that sexuality is a scientific issue. So someone's gay because they have a gene, or is it that one finger's longer than the other, or it's hormonal? There's no emotional, psychological.
Yeah,
there's not. No, just a question, because if you take a scientific view, what about the conscious? Is there a scientific, the conscious, is there a scientific question?
You could take more of a view that we're all pansexual and we could be whatever we want to be.
No, but does science, one of those questions, when science does a lot, can it really answer everything? So
no, we don't know everything, but religion knows nothing.
I'm not saying religion, I'm just saying science isn't the answer to everything.
Okay, I mean, I haven't noticed any particular gain upon science But what
For instance, smallpox. Where would the world would be half gone if we didn't eradicate smallpox with science?
Yeah, but again, we eradicate.
We all live till the age of 80, 90.
But we sacrifice a race to eradicate smallpox.
I don't think anybody's.
Yes, we did.
I don't think anybody is disputing that. Right? What I was saying.
No, the dispute comes with religion trying to trump over scientific values and efforts to change the world and progress us. Yes, there's many things wrong with it.
The point I was making was responsive to the contribution by the previous speaker, and I'm just saying I hadn't observed any particular attack on science. I observed quite opposite. What I will say is that we can surmise whatever, but it's difficult because there aren't many people here. There's one or two, perhaps to us smallest, but there's not many people here putting forward the counter-argument. So, I don't think we're going to resolve the issue today. This is very, very, very brief.
It's
right?
Yeah, it's brief.
I mean, really brief. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. I understand why people in religion dislike science, and I mean, like, really hostile towards it. Because when I was Muslim, I used to have a thing about science. I was really interested in science when I was young, but I still had, like, contradictory views about it. And I think it's because I encountered a group of certain atheists who were like, they would take science to a level where they would, for example, they would try to use it to elevate themselves superior to people, and that's how it can feel to some theists. So not only does science contradict their religion, which is something very emotional to them, it's also used in the way it's telling them you're stupid, etc. So some people will find science as an attack rather than something to help them, and I think that view of science, even though sometimes people can get really fussed about science, it's amazing, it's the universe, etc. But I think science needs to change its image a little bit, especially with things like Richard Dawkins. I think they have a good general view, but sometimes the way they can come out to people and the way they put their point across can come off as condescending.
Okay, so PR job is necessary. Yeah, just a kind of closing summary of what you think today's been about, basically. But don't take more than 3 minutes.
No, the whole day. Okay.
I'm going to use my 3 minutes.
You don't have to. All right, use your 3 minutes wisely.
Oh gosh. Okay, in that case. First, I would just like to thank you all for having me on this panel. Thank you very, very much. Thank you to the organisers, so that's a good use of my 3 minutes there. One thing, just going to say, I'm totally with you, I really don't, in the sense of I don't think anyone here, most of us are, we believe in science, but I would just say that nobody is infallible. That's why I don't believe in God. You must always question. And that's the good thing about science, we must question so that they can get it right the next time. No one is infallible, we're all human beings, so there is no greater being, in my opinion. We can all be challenged. And science is a good way of doing that. On the sort of thing about, just on feminism, I suppose, well, there's so much to say. I'm really trying to work out how to summarise it all. Essentially, I think with all these things, okay, for myself as an atheist, as a feminist, okay, I simply want to live in a world, and I really hope it's in my lifetime, but you just never know. I really want to live in a world where, I don't have to explain the fact I don't believe in God. I don't have to explain the fact that, because it's just not going to be a big deal. I want it to reach a point where we're just equal as human beings. I just want to reach a point where my sexuality, my gender, my race are not big deals. And sadly, I think it's going to take a while for that to be a thing. I don't want to have to always have these labels. I want one day just to be Sienna Bangura, I think it's a lot to ask for maybe right now. But just again, Audrey Lorde, she said, who said it was simple? And I think it's really good that we always have these types of discussions. They can get pretty heated. But it's always good to always come back, and no matter how much you disagree with someone, just look at what they've said. And even if you don't disagree, if you disagree with everything they've said, they're coming from somewhere with that, always. And I want to, one more thing, intersectionality. Nobody is just one thing. I'm not just black, I'm not just a woman, I'm not just this, I'm not just that. I have many intersections and many layers, and we all do. Some of them you haven't even realised yet. And it's really important that when you attack one, and let's include religion, when you're attacking someone's religion or their non-religion, you have to think about where those values are coming from at all times, so religious, non-religious. So it's really important. We're a package, and you must deconstruct everything to understand the full. And yes, so thank you very much for having me. There just wasn't enough time in the end, I suppose.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to say that as well, just thank you so very much for having me here. I've really enjoyed myself. I've intentionally played the devil's advocate, and I've intentionally said what I think is right. But like you said, which I'm just going to take up from that, is the fact that we should not forget that somebody is coming from somewhere. Their worldview is shaped by their reality, and our reality are not the same. So when you want to attack whatever that person holds as a foundation of what their humanity, be careful, because you might get a resistance, because they will see you as an oppressor, and you don't want to be in defense. So you have to be very, very careful when you take on people, whether they have a faith or they don't have a faith. Have a conversation, not a debate. It's very, very important. And just to take on the fact that religious organizations use drugs as a way to take people to the kingdom, I'm sorry, it goes two ways. I need a drug to stay alive. They need people to come to their kingdom. They have people in their kingdom, and I am alive. Because they don't want dead people in that kingdom. They want people that are alive. So if I'm going to be alive, if I'm going to ever get into their kingdom, I've got to take the drugs. And once the drug is in, I want to go, I don't care. So 1 + 1 will always give us 2. So it is also, I still have more than 1 minute. But I still think, it is our, like you said, I still think it's our responsibility. I'm not saying that, atheists are not doing enough. Scream and shout it. Because when you scream and shout it, when you do something and you scream and shout it, tomorrow when the Archbishop of England or wherever he is goes on TV and say, oh, the Christians are saving the world, then people will say, no, it's not just only you that are saving the world. There are people of no faith as well that are saving the world, because this world belongs to us as human and not to us as Christian or as Muslim. Until you go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and every land, and shout and scream it, religion will continue to win. And people in Africa will always see religion as a means to an end. And don't forget that the most poorest population in the world, because you, Ellen, said something about education and atheism, and I cringed. Because the moment you think that because people people that are illiterate are people that are religious, you are doing more evil than good. There are many intelligent people in Africa, even scientists, aeronautics, that are religious. Will you take that away from them? So don't ever equate being an atheist to being brilliant. It does not hold water. People believe in what they believe in, and we should just engage and not disengage. Thank you.
It's very, very difficult to follow after that powerful close-up. But there's another quote that I really like, and it says, the voice of the person, I'm not going to say it verbatim correctly, but it sounds like the voice of a person that usually expresses the will of the Almighty God. That voice always coincides with the voice of the person expressing the will of the Almighty God. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yep.
Essentially what it means is that a lot of time when people are saying that this is the will of God, they are expressing their own wills. So it is that will, the will of humanity. Let us take out that authority of this being that has nothing to do with us, that we will never see, but that humans are expressing its will. Let's separate humanity from that thing and see the nakedness of the will of us as human beings and deal with our will, and that is what will take us forward. That's my conclusion.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to say a few words. I don't know if the organisers want to make any closing comments off me. I just want to make a couple of words. I mean, you guys have made me miss my Saturday evening's football, but I've never been more happy to do so.
YouTube.
And I'll tell you what, I'm a person, I try never ever to say anything that I don't mean, and I was I chaired a meeting, I chaired a meeting in the House of Commons earlier this week with MPs on the panel, all kinds of things, and I really I'm in awe of the panel that we have today. So please, I'd like you to give a big hand for 3 Wonderful speakers. But even more important than the speakers or the organisers of this event, so please, they're represented by two of us at the back there, and Clive and all kinds of people. So please,